Good morning. How are you today? It's a nice day, slightly overcast, a little moist and warm, but that's okay. And I tell you this, the no-see-ums are out. These tiny little bugs that, tiny little bites, very annoying little creatures. So, but that comes. There's a whole bunch of people ahead of me marching, I think, toward the river. The Potomac River's at the end of this road that we're on right now that we're walking down. And so uh, they look pretty happy. They had those, sticks to walk with. I've never used those. I guess I will with age. I don't know. So what's new? Well, first of all, we've recovered from Facebook. That is to say, they were down yesterday. I use Facebook. Others use Facebook, sometimes for communication, but also messaging. And some of the more cynical observers out there think maybe Facebook shut itself down so it could destroy records having to do with the antitrust violations and other things. Well, if that's true, we'll find it out. These guys have such a huge operation, it defies my understanding as a recovering former coder, going back to my days literally in high school when we programmed an IBM 1620 Mod 2 with we did COBOL and Fortran and machine language, and I punched cards and I did all those things. And I have a master's in information science. But the one thing I can tell you is that the science changes all the time. So I'd hate to be the one trying to figure out how to run a monster like that. Then the question is that FBI is Facebook abusing its privilege, and it is an antitrust. And what should we do about it? But the one thing that's clear to me is I do not want the government deciding what we can say or not say. And I don't say this as some paranoid conspiracist. I say this as a person who appreciates the fact that politicians and people who govern want to control all the platforms. They can't help themselves. It's like, this is what I'm going to do, and they can't change it. So that's a concern we should have. And not liking the founder or the president or something, okay, that's a factor. We're human. We can't ignore it. But we got to look pretty carefully when the government goes to break up something that is also involved in what people are saying. And if you're a host and you're not responsible and people are saying terrible things, where should you draw the line? And I think it's the yelling fire in a crowded theater. Overthrow the government, misleading people about voting, misleading people about the pandemic. So that's where I stand. And, maybe it will change over time. And my prejudice comes from when I was on the Hill, I would take the side of Silicon Valley against Hollywood. And Hollywood was more concerned about insulating and protecting content and less concerned about developments that occur in the industry. And as kind of a wonkish guy who has long ago lost the ability to code the way people do these days, I have this romantic view of how great things can happen and terrible things can happen. In the category of migrants, I think that the outgoing State Department deputy, who Koh is his name, K-O-H, is right, that we should be doing better about the migrants than we are. And I don't dispute our loyalty and our feeling and our compassion for those migrants in Afghanistan. Very difficult situation. But come on, in our own hemisphere, why are we treating the Haitians so differently? And why are we being so indiscriminate when people who were from Haiti, who went to South America, given the crises in Haiti, and then tried to come to America, are now, years after they left Haiti, being sent back to Haiti? That's just not acceptable. And you may remember during the Carter administration, there's a lot of dispute about what to do about the boat people from Cuba, the people who died and those that we saved. And a number of people at the time felt that the empathy of Carter for these people was right and what America should do. If the statute of limitations, that's interesting. If the statue in New York Harbor means anything, the Statue of Liberty. And I think it does. And I think it's part of our history and it's part of our vitality. And it's not been easy for the people who come here, the new people, to adapt, because we seem inherently to resist what's new and what's different, and it doesn't help when we have white supremacists. I just saw a leaf fall. It's coming, and the colors are getting a little lighter yellow. So yes, there are poor Afghans, but we also have migrants at the border we have to deal with, and I hope we'll change our policy. I don't want a successor administration doing what Trump would do. It's just not acceptable to me. In the category of a nice thing, Netflix has contributed $5.4 million to Howard University for a chair honoring Chadwick Boseman. And you may remember he played all these fabulous roles. He's such a tremendous actor, and he died too young. So I think that that's a worthy and a nice thing. It's nice to have happy stories from time to time. We don't have enough of those. Now, in the unhappy category, or not, we have Trump dueling with the idea of announcing yesterday, or the day before, or the week before, that he's running for president again. And those who say, if you do that, then others will have to get equal time. And I'm sure there are a couple of Republicans, maybe Cruz, maybe the governors of Florida and Texas, who would like to see him sort of frozen. But as long as his name's in the mix, it also affects the money they can raise. When I ran for Congress, there's a guy who was a good friend of mine, a state senator. He announced that he was thinking. He wasn't announcing that he was running, and I'd already announced that I ran. And so I gave an interview saying that he is freezing the funds I need in the primary to decide if I can win this election in the general election. And I didn't intimidate him because he was too much experience for that, and he's such a great fellow. And then he enjoyed the limelight for a while, but then he did the responsible thing and said he wasn't going to run. And then he did support me. Well, that's what happens among responsible people interested in politics. You know, there's periods of uncertainty, but Trump is such an egotist, self-centered baboon that he doesn't care who he hurts or how he paralyzes the field or even the party, which has become a cult. So I don't know if this favors us or not, but I think it does, because I think as time goes on, he may make it difficult for everybody to organize and raise the funds they need to mount a serious presidential race, and that's good by me. Now, the hidden second agenda on this is we should be investigating him for crimes. Okay, I won't say too much more about Garland, but hello, Garland, wake up, do something. It's like that Back to the Future movie, you know, it's, wake up, what are you doing? Anybody in there? And apparently not. And it's at a point where it's not just Garland. Garland doesn't get away with this unless he believes he has the president's support. So Biden supports this non-action. And maybe I'm naturally more pugilistic, but he's Irish, Biden's Irish, and he should be thinking of the fight. Because from the beginning, the first fight was preserving the democracy. And you knew that before Biden was sworn in because of January the 6th. And nothing has happened to improve that. So there's that. There's another nice story. This guy Eastman, who wrote the BS legal memo that said Pence could decide the election himself after the fact by messing up the count of the votes of the electors from the Electoral College. And luckily, the riots did not close down the House and the Senate. They came back and they voted the pro forma 12th Amendment of the Constitution to uphold the election of Biden, and he became the president-elect. But now, here we are 9 months later. It's time for us to get our act together. So it's a gorgeous day. I want to thank you for joining me. I hope I say things that make you both calm and give you some idea what your argument should be near the water cooler. And if you disagree, let me know. I learned from the feedback loop that this has become on Facebook, back online, and YouTube, and also Twitter. So nice to be with you. Have a good day, and I'll just continue to enjoy the green of the day. Bye-bye.